Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup. We are here this morning on the last podcast of the year.
So hard to believe.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I think this is podcast 29 or 30 for
What?
us.
Crazy
Yeah,
town.
yeah,
Wow. Look at us.
I know.
Well, no
And
wonder.
it's
Oh, sorry. I was like, no
no,
wonder I feel like so close to you. We've been getting together doing this for 30 weeks.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And it's the perfect time to talk about our year in review because
Here we are.
um, we we are reviewing our year, looking back and kind of evaluating, assessing. And so we thought that we would do that with you all. For one, we really appreciate that you've listened to us this year. We, we have I think a pretty um my words aren't here this morning. We have a pretty
Loyal.
yes, loyal, thank you. Loyal group of listeners.
Mhm,
That would not come to me.
mhm.
And we appreciate you. We appreciate being able to do this every week. We've enjoyed it immensely, and we appreciate that you come along for the ride. So
Right.
it's been fun, yeah, doing
It
this.
has. I think to myself, like, what keeps me going is it's because it is fun
Yeah.
to just talk and get together with you and discuss the tools of the trade and where we're at, and always like evaluating where we're going and where we've been and how we got there, which
Mhm.
might be a good intro into today's
Into
topic.
today's topic, yeah.
Podcast.
So let's talk about that because when we were deciding we wanted to have this topic, the decision to talk about this was pretty easy.
Fit
But
perfectly.
but then we had our time to actually say, okay, what are we going to talk about? And one of the things that we decided pretty quickly is we needed to talk about the metrics that we're using to evaluate our year.
Mhm. And so I think right away for me was the question, how am I different? Right. And based on the results where I was a year ago,
Yeah.
which we'll just use January 1st
Yeah.
versus January 1st today. And what
Okay.
metrics and you want me to discuss, or do we want to talk
Yeah,
about?
go. Let's talk about how you're different.
Well, um, January 1st of last year, I was still a student of the life coach school, getting ready to start into the applied track.
Mhm.
I did not have a job, and I was challenging myself with actually, I was working through my anxiety at this point last year. This was a very big, um, I guess I could put that in my R line for the year, kicked
Oh, yeah.
anxiety's ass.
Yeah.
So this time last year, I had not kicked it. I was in the throes. Is that
Mhm.
okay if I use these words? Like, yeah, I'm like,
Absolutely.
it
I
feels
mean,
so inflammatory because if I was coaching someone and they were telling me they were in the throes of anxiety, but I was in the throes.
yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the perfect language, and I guess our listeners, they they only see the results, and so I think it's important to talk
Yeah.
about the journey because I
Mhm.
remember with your anxiety, you know, working with you through this time as a friend and as a coach.
Mhm.
And I remember at some point, and I don't know when it was. I don't know. It wasn't right now. It was like a few months later. It was in the spring. It it just hit me that you had this sense of peace come over you. That's the best way I know how to describe it because you had been so, I don't wanna say worked up, that's not the word I'm looking for, but your anxiety really did have you go ahead, you
Oh, well, my favorite way to think about like the literally how I felt like I was living was I think about the cartoon and had that puppy in it. I don't know. And the poor cat would be eating the food and the puppy would come around the corner and bark at the cat and the cat would fly up and hit the ceiling and be hanging by the
Yeah.
claws, you know. And that's
Yeah.
literally what I felt like I was living every day with when I was, because it was daily panic attacks, daily anxiety attacks, daily. And I remember just thinking like, I'm going to die. If I keep living like this, I'm going to have a heart attack. Like, it felt so compelling. And I
Yeah.
was just so determined. And I definitely wanted my R line. Like, I cannot be more pleased with my R line that
Mhm.
I never quit trying to figure it out, that I had
Yeah.
resources available to me. I had friends in life coach school. I had coaches in life coach school. I had you. I had, like, everyone was so patient with me. And of course, I was constantly evaluating myself all along the journey to to get where I'm at today. So
Yeah.
big R for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's amazing. I think it's been just really something to watch
Yeah. Oh,
because the change was just so clear and so obvious, you know.
it's still me, just
Mhm.
better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I remember feeling some relief myself because you were, a year ago,
I
you
was
were in the
battling.
throes of it.
Yeah.
But
Everything. Breathing air hurt.
yeah.
Breathing air. I can remember getting coached, telling someone when I take a breath in, my teeth hurt. That's how bad I have anxiety. Like,
Mhm.
it was that, the connection in my body. I was in such a state of
Yeah.
panic
Yeah.
over nothing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and how many people, I see people walking around, especially with students on campus. I don't see them walking around right this minute. They're all at home quarantining, but I see students walk around with that level of anxiety all the time. And I think to see you and what the work that you've done, I mean, to know that you can work to overcome it. So
Mhm.
many times people don't understand that this is in their control because it feels so big.
Mm. Mhm.
It feels so, just encompassing. How could I possibly be in control of something like that?
Yeah.
And yet you are.
Yeah, I am. And I will feel it every now and then when I have quiet moments, if I find myself like at the grocery store and I don't know what I'm thinking, but I will feel it in my body. Like, I will recognize
Uh-huh.
the feeling of, and I will think to myself, ah, there you are, little anxiety feeling. And I am reminded that um that I have done so well, and it's because I'm out in public
Mhm.
and I'm thinking something that's causing this anxiety.
Yeah.
But I just acknowledge it and just move on. Anyhow,
Right.
yep.
Yeah. And I think that is one of the main personal development areas where I have grown this year too. Not that I had anxiety to overcome. I do think that this is the year that I realized that I did have anxiety because my story was just the
Mhm.
opposite. I always told myself um, that I did not, that I'm the cool, calm, collected person, excuse me, who puts out fires.
Mm. Mhm.
And so that was the story I told myself. That was the story everybody still believes about me. And the truth that I figured out this year about myself is that I have the same feelings and emotions that everybody else does.
Oh,
But yeah, I know.
you're
Imagine
human.
that. I found out I was human and that I stuff my emotions down with food.
Mm.
And I never realized that. Here I am. I turned 49 this year. And this is the first year I realized it sounds crazy. It does sound
Mhm.
laughable that I am human. And The truth is, I like the story that I'm the calm, cool, collected one who takes care, who puts out fires.
Mhm.
That's a story I like,
Mhm.
and I want to keep that. What I don't want to keep is stuffing down my emotions
Mm.
with
Mhm.
food.
Mhm.
And so just having this realization this year, I have been so much more aware, especially in the last half of the year. I don't remember when it came to me when I finally realized this. I'm sure I can look back in my journal and figure it out. But that this is the year that I realize I am human. I have human emotions. I have just buried them so deeply that I'm not always good at recognizing them, but I'm getting good at it.
Mhm. Mhm. I like that so much, Sonia. That's
Yeah.
really, I think that's really a powerful statement to acknowledge, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's very strange. Um, and I guess, you talk about anxiety and how that feels very strange to you. This is the same, it's huh, I can't be
Like,
very articulate. Go
oh,
ahead.
like the comparison, like how I feel like because I've kicked its ass, like looking back and how you look back and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I am human. Like this time,
Yeah.
maybe last year, you weren't thinking
Yeah.
you were human. Yeah.
I didn't connect my personality with my problem with food.
Mm,
That
okay.
it's one thing to say that your eating is emotional. It's
Mhm.
another to realize that
Mm,
you're using it instead of emotions.
mhm. Or to
I think
avoid or
yeah,
mm,
yeah. So anyway, that's a big realization that I have had, as far as self-development goes this year. And it wasn't one, that I had. It wasn't a goal that I could put on the calendar, right? You know,
mhm.
this year I'm gonna figure out if I have emotions or not.
Put it on the calendar.
Yeah. But
I'm gonna give you the cheat sheet. You do?
exactly, exactly. But it is one that is a result of something that was on my list of goals, and that's to journal.
Mm, mhm.
And, I came to this realization with reading, with journaling, with listening to podcasts and listening to books. But I don't know that I would have realized it, um, without my daily journaling.
Mm, that's really true. I think that is super has been a super valuable resource for me as well. The
Yeah.
journaling. I can't attest to so much to the daily journaling,
Yeah.
um, but for sure, the journaling that I have done because this for me this past year has been just the year of getting coached. There's my journaling.
Mhm.
Mhm, just
Yeah,
getting
and
coached.
and when you have people who come to you and want to, like, they don't understand the power of this coaching thing, what what's the power of it
Oh,
for you?
oh my gosh. Well, here's the story I tell myself is I am an auditory processor. My gift is not my hand in my pen, a pen in my hand and paper. Like I can do that and I can learn so much about myself, but I enjoy the connection with a real person. I like someone else being my outside brain. I like hearing
Mhm.
myself talk. Um, and what that type of discovery that you can only go so far with pen and
Mhm.
paper. It's
Mhm.
it's a wonderful, but to have that outside person to connect with
Yeah,
and
to
hold that
question
space
your
and just
brain.
question. Yeah. It's yeah, it's really been an amazing year in that respect for me too. And
Yeah.
it's been an amazing year period. You keep going. I'm sorry. I'm
No, tell us something else that's been amazing about your year.
we'll talk about my failure.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I don't think at this point in January of last year, it was not a goal of mine. But mid-year at some point, I decided I wanted to take back running back up. And we've probably talked about it a few times on this podcast because it was
Mhm.
over the summer. I'd hired a um, trainer and he was amazing and all the right things. But here's the bottom line. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. It was a short-term goal. It was a goal that evolved into a short-term goal, and I put some pressure on myself.
And the goal was a sub 35K.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. Like I had the initial running goal, and then I had I had a colonoscopy in March, and they were like, "Oh, you need to come back in 3 months." So then I had that second colonoscopy, and they're like, "Oh, you need to come back in 6 months." So here it is. Um, uh, Polyps, bad area. Doctor said the last colonoscopy, like, he's like, Judith, if it's there again, you need to consider having the section of your colon removed because it's going to
Mhm.
be thin, blah, blah, blah. So in my mind, all of a sudden, this goal went from, oh shit, I need to bust out this year with my running because if I have to have, my brain went down the YouTube channel investigating all this type of surgery and like thinking about, you may not ever exercise you may not exercise for 6 months if you have to have your stomach cut open, what's this
Mhm.
going to mean and all the things. So I immediately went from just enjoying running to, oh, let's do a 30-minute sub 30 5K, which is doable.
Mhm.
Um, but putting that pressure on myself and then getting a job that requires a lot of sitting,
Mhm.
which is, totally was in my goal, what I wanted to do. I wasn't taking care of myself. There's a lot of stretching that needs to happen. And so long story short, I do have we kind of talked about this earlier. I am mad at myself. I guess it's just disappointment and it's okay. I'm
Mhm.
disappointed I dropped the goal, but in the moment it was the best I could do because I knew I wasn't taking care of myself. The sacrifice would be I could be injuring myself if I continue at this pace of busting my ass and not stretching it
Yeah.
and then sitting on my ass all
Yeah.
day long. It
Yeah.
wasn't serving me. So I dropped the goal. Although I still have thoughts. I could get out and run a couple times before, finish the year strong. It's still not over.
Yeah. Well, and you haven't quit exercising. It's
No,
not
no,
like
no.
you just dropped
Yeah.
everything.
I dropped the intensity, the pace. I'm
Mhm.
hiking and walking, and I still do my HIIT
Yeah.
workouts. I just dropped the running.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's, I love looking at that because so many times we see pulling back from a goal like that as a failure.
mhm, mhm,
And it's not a failure at all.
mhm,
You've realized a lot about yourself in the process.
mhm,
You're working, you've processed disappointment. You are processing disappointment. It's not something you do one time and it goes away.
mhm.
But you're also being realistic about it. And, that's human, right?
Right. And it's self-care. Like it's just another form of self-care. Which is ultimately what this whole journey, this weight loss journey, this running journey, this colonoscopy journey, like all of it is ultimately to preserve this body that I have and honor
Yeah.
this body that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's amazing. I think it's there are disappointments in life,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that's just part of the experience. That's part of the package.
Yeah.
And every year has some. You know, speaking of disappointments and every year having some, we are going through our first pandemic this year.
Mm. Mhm.
And I don't know that you can talk about 2020 without talking about
But wait
living
a minute.
through.
When we turn the calendar, it's all going to go away, right?
Right, 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 right. January 1st, it's all gonna be gone. So we're almost there.
Whew.
Yeah, but this has been a very heavy year, not just for me and you, for a lot of people. It's been heavier for a lot of people than it has been for us.
Mhm.
But I think, this pandemic experience is worth talking about because it has changed, and not just negatively. There have been some positive changes. There will continue to be some positive changes to come out of it, but, it's our first year in a pandemic. What have you learned from that? Or are you still processing it?
Mostly, well, I think working from home has been, I just commented to my daughter last night, like one of the benefits of working from home and being a coach is, I got to live my dream life, but what I didn't expect was also, coaching clients and hearing their stories, like
Mhm.
clients that work are on the front line and like yourself, Sonya, right? Like after Thanksgiving, hearing clients talk about their experience of not having the traditions that they
Mhm.
normally, but also their thinking around that it was because like certain family members weren't there that
Right.
they had new thoughts,
Mhm.
right? Which it did bring new clarity for them, but it's so interesting. And where am I going with this story? That when the onion is peeled back, the
Mhm.
family's not there, they're not making the turkey, they're not stressing over a coconut cream pie for Aunt Sue, when they're not busying themselves, when they realize how good life is and that that's available to them at any time. Like their thoughts before were like,
Mhm.
oh, we're never, it's not going to be the same. But then the growth that they had through
Yes.
was interesting to hear because I had a similar experience, no turkey. Hell yeah, I'm having a steak and potato. I
Yeah.
don't like turkey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Anyway, I'm babbling.
yeah. No, you're not at all. I think that, you know, the whole concept of discomfort, this pandemic has caused so much discomfort. We have been forced to get out of our comfort zone. Many Most of us, I would say. I think I can generalize here. There are certain parts of our lives that have become very, um I don't know, we take them for granted. We just do
Comfortable
them.
routine. Yeah,
Routine, familiar, comfortable, and
mhm,
we have been thrown out of that this year.
yeah, yeah,
And so it's been a fantastic opportunity for growth.
yeah.
Or it's been the perfect year to sit around and, complain and groan and talk about how horrible it is. You've had 2 options. All of us have had 2 options.
So true. Oh my
And
gosh.
I don't think anybody lives completely in one or the well, there's a few people I think live completely in the negative. But for the most part, we kinda go back and forth between the positive and negative. But I've said from the beginning that I think this is going to be an experience that really allows for some changes. And I mean, I'm in the education field, um, and I've seen some changes already that I really like. I've seen some that I don't like.
Mhm, mhm,
But I think if we keep looking at this as a way to grow,
mm,
then we can really build something out of it. Like you said, learn to understand that it's not about all the stress. Holidays shouldn't be about all the stress we put on ourselves to
mhm.
create some,
Illusion.
yeah, illusion. Exactly.
Mhm,
So I think it's been a great year for really discovering what is important, what is the essence of family for me? What is, really important when I dig down?
right, and it makes it, immediately makes I drop into gratitude,
Mhm.
right? This is just a year of being grateful for, for the human experience that I'm having
Yeah.
and the awareness that I have of my life and of others and the growth that I have had and the ability to gift, to experience and gift coaching with others
Yeah.
in hopes, can I say that? There is hope. We're not supposed to have hope for our clients, but I have hopes. hopes of sharing
Yeah.
and sharing enlightenment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's okay to have hope. I mean, it does. I get that it needs to go beyond just the
Yeah.
passive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the active hope is critical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have active hope that I and my family will, work through this and find a new way to to appreciate going on vacation together. I mean, there are a lot of things that have changed, and they all offer opportunities.
Okay.
Um,
That's the might be the key word there for so many of us as we move
yeah.
forward is the ability to adapt to change.
Yes.
The year
Yes.
of growth. Yeah.
And this year, I think also has been a year um, where those who are adaptable have fared better.
Mm.
I think a couple of examples in my life of people who don't do well with change.
Isn't that like, I don't know, I'm getting ready to go off on Darwin. The
Mhm.
survival of the fittest is your ability to
Absolutely.
adapt to change. Like, and that's
Absolutely.
imperative this year. And changing your mindset is
Yes.
key.
Yes. Yeah. And I've seen some stodgy old, people, not old, but they have that mindset of they don't like change. I've seen some of them start to change. I've
Mhm.
seen others who haven't and have really self-imposed suffering.
Mm.
They just kind of live in that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
uh and I hate that for them that they have chosen that rather than figuring out a way to change.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Well, some other things I think in my year, I was looking back over we talked at the beginning, well, you all didn't hear us having this discussion, but we both talked about the fact that neither of us are huge um like we don't actively write down our goals.
Yeah.
And this is the first year that I have done that. And then I was looking back at it because I had put it away. It was in another calendar and I switched calendars in July. And so I knew it was in there, but I never dug it out. And I was looking at it and I was like, huh, well, look at all the things I didn't do.
Mm.
But there's also a lot of things that I did do this year
Mhm.
when I
Mhm.
started looking at it. And I think I have had a lot of growth in figuring out this whole life coaching thing. Like you said, what did we start? The end of February in our applied track?
Something like that.
Something like that. And since then, because of the pandemic, because of being home, the last part of our spring semester, we taught online and we couldn't even go to campus. Um, I learned a lot about how to run an online business. I
Mm.
figured out a website. I figured
You
out
sure did.
that it wasn't just a website you need. You need like 4,000 programs to run along with your website. That's a bit of hyperbole, but there was a lot more to it than it
Mhm.
looks like. And I challenge anyone out there who's in the software industry to figure out how to make all these blasted things work together.
That's really, and you figured out podcasting.
We
Like,
figured
y'all,
out
I'm
how to
straight
podcast.
up, straight up. I show up.
Yeah. I mean,
Does all the work. She
no,
would.
that is not true.
That
That
is.
is not true at all. But yeah, we figured out and I have figured out a ton of stuff.
Mhm.
And when I look at my business goals, I have blown way past the goals that I had on all of those. Now, another thing that I realize is that in doing that, I did not hit some others. I maybe spent more time on those goals because they were fun than I did on some of my some of my other goals. So maybe I need to reevaluate that. That when we talk next week about constraint, maybe I'll talk a little
I
bit
was
about.
just thinking to myself, somewhere I have this note. I have a goal. Let's see. It says the end goal may be shallow, but it's the work we take to get there that's deep.
Yeah.
Even like my running goal, who knew it would turn
Yeah.
into, you know, profoundness around my health?
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. That is exactly. I think that's a great lesson to actually wind down on. Is there anything else you want to say about your year in
Mm,
review?
let's see. I'm flipping through my notes here. Well, I was just going to say, you know, I'm not, I don't know that even any of these goals that we've talked about, whether it be my wanting to go to life coach school, wanting to work for No BS, wanting to run, like these are not even things I wrote down.
Mhm.
But that's not true. Even as I say that, I do remember in my No BS planner,
Mhm.
like writing, I just wrote it every day, but it wasn't like I like officially set out this big goal and sat down on a piece of paper and said, I will do this. I just started saying it, just
Yeah.
writing it in there.
Yeah.
I'm just now even realizing that. I think my mind, because I'm thinking about your calendar and how you have it like documented.
Yeah.
I do have some old planners with it in there. So
Right.
I did.
And that's what I would really encourage our
Yeah.
listeners to do.
Yeah. I did do that a lot. I think I spent well over a year
Yeah.
doing that now
Yeah.
that I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
So
so interesting. I was giving all the credit to my brain.
it you will I mean, if you write it down, Corinne says this, right?
Oh, yeah.
She writes her goals down every
Every day.
single day.
Yeah.
And I think, what she's accomplished, I don't think we need any more proof that that's a valuable practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
So if you don't have to have a formal list. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But even just jotting it down somewhere every day
Yep.
so that you can be present with it, so that you can remember this is my goal.
Mhm. Mhm. I
It's
really like that. Yeah, I don't even know why that just came to me at this moment.
yeah,
But true. Just do it. You'll
just do
be
it.
surprised. You've got a whole new year. The calendar's flipping.
Yep. Next year we'll be getting close to episode 100 at this
Oh my
point.
goodness.
So we will have a lot to review, I would say. We've only had 6 months of podcasting
Look at
right now.
us.
I know. I know it. We'll be
And
seasoned veterans by then.
we didn't put this on the calendar. That was not on my calendar of like podcasting.
Nowhere in my list do I have podcasting. And yet that's probably one of the areas where I feel like, I mean, certainly an area where I've grown.
Yeah.
Without doing this every week, there's a lot of things I would probably let slip.
Yeah. I like we said, it keeps me in the word.
That's
Keeps
right.
me in the word.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next week. And until next year.
Here.
Here's to a fantastic 2021 where we don't always have it easy, but we learn and grow from whatever change happens.
Yep. I think that's a perfect summary.
Yeah. All right.
Here's to change.
All right. We'll see you all next week.